It does not.
Who do you think goes in there?
But it don't have to be two part-time people is good.
Yes, pure chaos. Hi, you guys. Welcome back. So we're diving into another one of these 2014 board meetings to get a better look at Dalton politics as it pertains to the kind of environment, feel, and tone these board meetings had. And as I go through these older meetings, it's becoming very evident to me that the chaos I'm often seeing through these beginning meetings was mainly due to a newly elected mayor and some newly elected trustees such as Tiffany Henyard, Robert Hunt, and Stan Brown, aka the Dynamic Trio. So even though these older board meetings got a bit chaotic, I can definitely see some improvement over the years when I watched the later board meetings with the older mayor, of course, not the ones with Tiffany Henyard. But also, by me watching these board meetings, it just further convinces me that Tiffany Henyard knew exactly what she was doing wrong as mayor. But she just chose to pick herself over the village and the residents when it came to making sound financial decisions. So speaking of sound financial decisions, that's exactly what they were arguing about. The Board of Trustees, mainly the Three Musketeers or the Dynamic Trio, Tiffany Henyard, Robert Hunt, and Stan Brown, are seeking to cut people's salaries and change some of the full-time job positions to part-time positions, all in the name of saving money. But of course, it's kind of hard to believe that saving money is their motive due to the fact that they are simultaneously spending money on things like fireworks and giving themselves more stipend money to do as they please with. So let's watch a bit of the discussion about them cutting out jobs and lowering pay of some of the employees of the village, and then I'll chime back in.
Right now we're talking about making people part-time. We cut in every department, including your department, but we cut it because we cannot afford it. We cannot afford it. So what's that? That's all you want. You cut your stuff. Speak for yourself.
Right. The fact of the matter is, all of these cuts, not all of them, but a lot of these cuts are directed towards me.
It's not.
There's no mayor. There is no mayor without an administrative assistant. There is no mayor. None without administrative assistant.
So as we heard, it sounds like they're looking to get rid of the mayor's administrative assistant's full-time position and hire someone part-time to fill that role. Now, I'm not a genius on what positions are important and vital to have when it comes to the mayor's office, but I would assume that an administrative assistant should be a full-time position at almost any kind of job, right? I mean, just by looking at the Google definition, this seems like a vital role that helps the organization run smoothly. And so Google says an administrative assistant provides crucial support to ensure the smooth and efficient operation of an office or organization. They handle a variety of tasks, including clerical duties, scheduling, communication, and record keeping. So in essence, they are the backbone of an office, managing the day-to-day operations and freeing up other staff for more specialized tasks. So as we just read, administrative assistants provide crucial support, and they are in essence the backbone of an office. So they manage the day-to-day operations, not the every other day operations. So I don't feel that it's right for them to try and make this role a part-time job. And it's not just any administrative assistant job either. It's the mayor's top aide. So with that knowledge, it does feel like the Dynamic Trio were out to make the mayor's term as difficult as possible. I mean, even with the most recent Board of Trustees, who was with the Tiffany Henyard administration, they never tried to cut her staff's hours or lower their positions to part-time. And the fact that the newer Board of Trustees even gave Tiffany Henyard all the tools and the funds she requested from Jump just shows that they wanted her to succeed.
You throw out all these shots and all these dishes and then you expect us to want to work with you. Yes, we want to work with you.
Because when the hate don't work, they start telling lies. And that's what this Board of Trustees have done.
If we didn't want to work with you, we wouldn't have passed the 98% of the budget that you proposed.
And it's said that we are at this point because majority of them ran on my ticket. And when they ran on my ticket, they got their seat. It was to follow the mayor's vision.
So you just say all these things and you put the stuff out here and you did overspend the budget. 15,000 that was on inauguration. So I'm just saying this is the truth that we're dealing with.
And now that I am in the seat, people have their own hidden agenda, own hidden alternative to basically do what they are doing now.
But they soon found out that no good deed goes unpunished, right?
I thought you were a trustee for 8 years. You would know that. I told you this when we talked. I thought you would understand what we're dealing with, and we're looking at you the same way. You did the same things. So was it wrong when you did it?
Because all we had to do is work together from day one. Day one, I ran with these individuals. Day one, I put Jason and Kiana on my ticket as trustees, not knowing that they was backstabbing me in the beginning.
If you can't look at yourself as a meat leader and think that we're listening to other people, and a majority of us are older than you, have more responsibilities than you, and we're listening to other people, so we're that weak-minded that we're listening to other people? No, we're listening to ourselves. And we're listening to what's right and what's wrong.
They got behind and supported a self-serving, egocentric narcissist.
Because you want it one way.
When I give a order, we're supposed to follow them because I am the leader for the community.
We're not even going to mention the $1,500 to $2,000 gets spent on the security detail, on the block that you live on. All that stuff is reality.
And the village of Dalton and all of the residents were left in the fallout of Tiffany Henyard.
And now that I am in the seat, people have their own hidden agenda, own hidden alternative to basically do what they are doing now.
So, quick disclaimer, even though I throw out words like narcissism, sometimes I say sociopath as it pertains to Tiffany Henyard, and how I describe her, that is just my opinion. I am not a professional. All right, that being said, let's move on with this board meeting.
You call the mayor's office and you go get the administrative assistant. And not only that, when your administrative assistant or your secretary, whatever you want to call them, when they answer their phone and they start a problem on Monday and it may not conclude till Thursday or Friday, them part-time people, what are they going to get? It's going to get shuffled between part-time people? That's what it's going to get done? The continuation process is not going to be there. And you want to tell me who to hire and what person I'm going to feel comfortable with and are qualified to handle this situation? You want to put some part-time people in here, $10 an hour, this is exactly what you're going to get. A $10 an hour person. And we get calls from the governor's office. We get calls from Washington, D.C. that has to be handled. We get calls from every facet, every form of government, we get calls in here that has to be handled. And that's what you want to do. You want to handle a part-time person to take the call at 8:30 in the morning, and it may not get solved till 5:30 at night on Wednesday night.
So are you telling me that in all of Dalton and all the suburbs and all the cities, that we may not have someone who may be retired or whatever the case may be, who has the experience, who does have the know-how, who can come in, and answer a call professionally?
Answer a call, that's what you equated to, just answer the call.
So you guys, obviously the mayor is super upset at this trustee's suggestion, and this trustee's name is Sabrina Smith, and I gotta agree with him. She's suggesting that they maybe look for someone who's retired, who can come in there and, answer calls, and she's pretty much downplaying this position that the mayor needs filled, okay? Like I said before, this is an administrative assistant position to him, and he needs someone that is well qualified to handle certain situations. As he's mentioned, they get calls from all facets of government, the governor's office and things of that nature. So I don't think that putting someone in there that's retired, okay, they're retired. So I don't know what type of get up and go that they would have to really come in there and make sure that everything is done right, T's are crossed, I's are dotted. It's just amazing to me the way they're downplaying what he needs to run his office smoothly, all right? Because when it came to Tiffany Henyard, there was no exception. She paid top dollar for her staff. Keith Freeman was getting paid nicely. All right. And he hadn't even had a background check.
This is not the correct way to do it. We found out about him when we got the agenda. We talked to him on Sunday for 20 minutes. Again, no background check was given, even though we implemented, we passed it to get the background, that still hasn't been given. We got his resume as we were talking to him. This mayor was a trustee for 8 years.
I ran for trustee in 2013. 2013, I became the youngest trustee for the village of Dalton. I sat there for 8 years, I'll say that.
This was not brought across the board the right way.
So it always astounds me when we look back on these meetings and they nitpicked at the mayor so much and they gave him so much grief and made things so difficult for him. But when she got in the position, she expected everything to be just her way or the highway.
When the first board meeting that got canceled, then we was threatened to get arrested.
Trustees say they're not allowed in Village Hall.
WGN's Patrick Elwood is in Dalton tonight with more on what's going on.
The mayor locking the trustees out of Village Hall tonight, forcing them to have a meeting out in the parking lot, all of which has Dalton residents shaking their heads in disbelief.
If you go into the Village Hall, you will get arrested.
Village board is on one side and the mayor, Tiffany Henyard, I'm told, on the other.
This is the second time she did this.
Edward Steve is a trustee along with 5 others, called a meeting 2 days ago to appoint their own legislative attorney to try to advance their agenda.
Given 48-hour notice. I just want everybody to see that it is being posted.
Reason being, they say, the mayor and her village attorney have blocked their efforts at every turn.
Sitting elected officials were threatened with arrest. So this is a reality what we're dealing with. Yeah, maybe we do need to go on a retreat and sit down. But when we sit down, what resolve do we come up with? Because you want it one way. You've no compromise.
Tonight, they say they were locked out of the Village Hall and forced to hold their meeting with a quorum, they add, in the parking lot.
We had a quorum, we had the clerk, and we had a board meeting outside.
But let's continue, because the mayor and Sabrina go back and forth. They get into a lot of heated arguments through these old board meetings, and this is just going to be one of them. Let's watch.
Okay, and send emails and do a memo.
Do you realize that the person that's sitting there right now is a contingent? And I'm gonna say, Miss Phillips has been sitting there, and at given times, she has to inquire about where certain calls go, where certain things happen. It's a learning process. Just because you sit there for a year or 2 years, there's always something that comes up that you don't have an answer for, that you have to go look for. And directing putting a part-time person in with no experience, it's ridiculous.
Why would you put someone in a position with no experience? That would be dumb on your part.
That would be dumb on my part. How long do you think it takes?
With no experience.
How long do you think it takes to find a person qualified to handle that position? There's a screening process. There's an application process. When you cut her out of the budget, who's going to answer the phones then? While we're trying to find 2 part-time people.
So, first of all, one of the things that really caught my attention throughout this back and forth between the mayor and trustee Sabrina Smith is the disrespect she shows towards him, okay? For instance, when she tells him that it would be stupid on his part if he hires someone without experience.
Why would you put someone in a position with no experience? That would be dumb on your part.
Well, obviously he wouldn't be hiring anyone without experience, and he was just using that as an example of sorts to actually express the importance and the need to hire someone full-time with the needed experience so things get done correctly and the ball doesn't get dropped with important matters that needed to be followed up on. But it seems like she's using this as an opportunity to insult him, and there's definitely something there between them as far as, some resentment. I don't know if they just plain out don't like each other, but there's definitely something there. But let's go ahead and continue, because we'll hear trustee Tiffany Henyard chime in on this little argument.
And 2 part-time people
You gonna direct it like y'all always
Today the mayor
People's
calls in
out
with an
sick,
issue,
y'all
he
put
talks to
somebody
one
down
person,
there to answer the
tomorrow
phone. You
the other
gonna
person don't even know who's
exactly, like you
And
always
what
do. That's why
happens?
you have y'all multitask.
When we put somebody down there, when we put somebody down, hold on, trustee, hold on. When we put somebody down to answer the phone, we shorten the manpower in every other department.
Either we're gonna make
That puts
that's why
Tiffany
you're not gonna make a job. The mayor talking.
You think it's funny?
I don't.
So there goes trustee Tiffany Henyard, the entrepreneur.
Come on to Tiffany's Good Burger and Soul Food. Riding around and get it. Okay,
giving her sound advice to the mayor's questions as to what she feels they can do while they're looking to fill that position, such as who is going to be answering the phones and taking on the necessary tasks that come from those phone calls. Trustee Tiffany Henyard's simple solution is for them to just handle it like they would if someone called in sick, right? Just pull someone from somewhere else to handle that job for the day. Well, that sounds like an easy solution that someone gives to someone else when they aren't going to be the ones to deal with the fallout from that situation. Because as we could hear the mayor say, when they have to pull people from other departments, it puts a strain on all the other departments. And I don't know about you guys, but if you've ever worked, okay, basically, in any type of business, you know, whether you're an employee or the head boss, you can see and feel the strain that gets put on the rest of the staff when people call in sick, right? It always affects the operations, and sometimes it affects the morale of the people who have to pick up their job because they're not there to do it. And this is just another sign that Tiffany Henyard knew nothing about running a business, hence her failed burger joint, okay? Or being in leadership, because as a leader, you would never want to put the people that you lead under unnecessary stress and have them work extra due to their coworkers calling out. Now, of course, call-outs and people not being able to work will always be a part of life. But in this case, it seems like the Board of Trustees are creating this problem for the village staff by cutting out a job before they even have a replacement for the position. All right, you guys, let's move on.
You think it's funny to neglect these residents and give them substandard service?
It
does have something to do with
not.
residents.
It does not.
Who do you think goes in there?
But it don't have to be.
Listen to this now.
That's it.
Listen to this
The
now.
person that's best qualified for it. That's it.
Just listen. But you want to put $10,000 in there for fireworks?
I sure do. Wow. When we get them, we talk about that too.
I sure do. You hear that?
So as we can hear, Tiffany arguing with the mayor, saying that they can put 2 part-time people in there and basically downplaying the unnecessary hardship that would be put on the village staff due to the board cutting out the administrative assistant full-time position. She even argues with the mayor when he says that doing this will affect the residents, and she says the residents have nothing to do with it.
To neglect these residents and give them substandard service.
It does have.
Now, I found that very funny because if you guys have watched any of the board meetings with Tiffany Henyard as mayor, her main go-to emotional baiting techniques was to say she does everything for the residents, and she would also say that the Board of Trustees don't care about the residents.
Y'all have to actually come and do some work before y'all can tell me anything. Y'all don't do any work. I don't see y'all around town. I don't see you at a gas station, at a grocery store. I don't see you doing nothing, Belcher. Nothing but running your mouth. Nothing. That's it. You always got something to say. When you gonna do the will of the people? When we gonna work together on something? We ain't gotta like each other. We don't. But we need to work together for the overall of the village. Because at the end of the day, I'm still producing. Y'all the one costing. Y'all, you 4. You the ones that's costing the village money, but yet y'all point the finger back to me.
So it's funny how as a trustee, she's trying to say this change in structure of the village staff will not affect the residents, and it has nothing to do with the residents. But we heard the mayor say the residents are the main ones who call in, right? Which makes total sense. But I think the more she argues with the mayor, and the more the dynamic trio try to implement changes and cut salaries, the more we begin to see that the true motives behind Tiffany's debates is to cause as much turmoil and division between not only the mayor and the Board of Trustees, but she's also trying to put the residents against him as well. At least that's my opinion. All right, let's move on.
The PA system fixed. Yeah, we had a recommendation to get the PA system fixed too. That was turned down.
Whoa.
So, anyway, where are we going? Mr. Irvin, what's the next thing?
Next person that was discussed in that meeting was a supervisor in the water department, Lena Williamson. It was the recommendation of the majority of the board to take the current salary of Miss Lena Williamson from $59,782.84 down to $40,000 plus benefits.
So here again, water department, well, we have a huge problem in.
Oh, yeah.
A huge problem. And most of our complaints come from the water department, I'll be honest with you, in public works next. They want to cut the salary of the supervisor by $20,000.
Oh, wow.
How long you been here, Ms. Lena?
15 years.
15 years. How long you been a resident of Dalton?
23 years.
Okay. You talk about hiring Dalton residents, there's one. You talk about giving them some longevity, 15 years. Now you want to talk about cutting us out.
And the longevity I haven't taken for 2 of those 5 years.
You haven't had your longevity for 2 of the 5 years.
That's right.
So that's the board's recommendation in regards to saving money. You know, everybody's at the expense of the board except themselves.
Amen.
And that says something about this board. All right, Mr. Irvin, what's next?
So this is once again another cut that the board is trying to do, and it concerns the supervisor of the water department. They want to take her salary from $59,782 down to $40,000, which is almost $20,000 less than what she was making. And she's been employed with the village for 15 years and is a 23-year-long resident. Now, while I feel that firing someone with such longevity is never really a good thing to do, I also heard the mayor mention that the water department has always had issues. And if you guys watch any of these board meetings, you would know that the water situation in Dalton has always been an ongoing issue as it pertains to residents not getting their water billed correctly and even getting overbilled for water.
A Dalton woman says her dream home came with an unexpected surprise, a huge unpaid water bill. Once she discovered the apparent error, things only got worse.
For 6 years, water in Trina Down's Dolton home has been the source of all her headaches.
The more I paid, the more of a problem I had.
A problem with her water bill, a big gushing one that she didn't discover until 2015, 4 years after buying her house and paying her quarterly water bill. The tip-off?
They still
suddenly getting a miscellaneous bill for more than $1,000. That's when she demanded a detailed billing statement and discovered she'd inherited
I was not aware of it.
A $2,400 water bill with the property, even though she says her closing documents show she bought the house free and clear.
They had the stamp from the village. I had an attorney close with me, and everything was paid.
Downs has spent years fighting to get her account straightened out and the money she says she's owed.
Can you tell me why they called the police on me?
Dolton officials even called police on her when she went to the village's payment center to get answers in 2019. She's filed complaints with Cook County's Inspector General, Illinois' Attorney General, and court action with no resolution.
Right now, I'm not paying them until I receive a refund for what is owed.
My question would be, what is the board's plan for the money they will save from getting rid of an employee who has been there for so long? Do they plan to spend it on new water meters, on new technology, to do some upgrades on their billing system? I mean, what is the plan going forward? And I feel that's what was missing during a lot of these meetings sometimes. There were major decisions being made, but there's never enough explanation as to why those decisions were being made and how the village would be better off because of those decisions. And it is also not lost on me that since these employees have been working in the water department for so long and there are still major issues going on with the water and the billing, that maybe they could be a part of the problem, and that could be why they're being weeded out. I mean, sometimes when people work for companies for so long, they can become complacent and stop caring about doing a good job. Now, I don't know if this was the case with this particular supervisor, but if Dalton had these ongoing water bill issues and they had the same staff there for a long time, maybe they needed to get some new blood in there. I don't know. But these are just speculations I'm throwing out. And at the end of the day, the employees can only do as much for the residents as their resources from the village allows them to do. So I'm not placing blame on the employees. I'm just showing another possible side to the situation. So another thing I found funny about this is that Trustee Tiffany Henyard was once someone who at one point in time championed for the water department to be improved so that the residents could receive better billing cycles, and she also wanted to change the water shutoff days so that the residents would not get their water cut off on the weekends. She did this all in the name of helping the residents. Yeah, no. I know you guys didn't believe that for 1 second. I feel that she did it all in the name of adding something to her campaign run so she could point out and say, look at what I did for the residents. I argued at the board meetings over and over again until I got an ordinance passed that didn't really help anyone at the end of the day, right? And the reason why I say is she probably did this for political reasons because that was when she decided to run for mayor. And that was the time she really started to harp about trying to get this ordinance passed. So that being said, let's look at some of these clips of her passionately defending the residents of Dalton against unfair water shutoffs.
There's no other town in the Chicagoland area that says we're not cutting water off on Friday.
If you cut it off, they can't get it turned back on.
Let me finish.
It's not right. They're going to be the whole weekend without water. I don't think that's right. So why cut it off on Friday now? They can't go pay it Saturday to get it turned on. So now they off Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then when Monday come, they might not even get on the list. So it's screwed up. It's messed up. It's bad. It's terrible. That water department needs help. Period. Think about it. Look how many department heads you done went through over there. It's terrible.
So here's a fun note. This lady right here is actually from the water department. And as we can see from her face, she's not too happy about how trustee Tiffany Henyard is just basically down in her department and saying they're terrible at their job. I just don't know what to say about that. I mean, she's just being totally disrespectful to someone who was sitting right in front of her.
I don't think anybody should have to pay for not paying the village their dollars over 3 days.
Well, you guys, that's going to be it for today. If you enjoyed this blast from the past again, please go ahead, leave this video a like, and if you're new here, subscribe.